Are you a person who woke up one day or has had this experience where you thought, this can't be all that life has to offer? Like, this isn't my life. And yet, you have a good life and you have family members who love you and you have people who you love. And that really leaves you wondering, what does it mean that I love these people and I love so much about this life? And yet, I feel the longing for something different. If that's you, this podcast episode is one you're going to want to listen to. We know that you were born magical. We know that you are intuitive, and we know that you are brimming with everyday enchantment. Here at the Sisters Enchanted, we believe in intention, we believe in intuition, and we believe in everyday magic. Welcome in to the Expedition to Soul podcast. Welcome to today's episode of Expedition to Soul. I'm Sarah, founder of the Sisters Enchanted. We have been bringing magic online since 2016 and have met thousands and thousands and thousands of people along the way. And this is a topic, our podcast today, that I think is like pretty timely considering the variety of things that have happened over the last few years. And it's also one that I hear from other people, like this question that we're going to address. And it's something I can speak directly to. So we're talking about, how do you expand into a next kind of life or next version of life for yourself without burning everything down? How is it that you can both expand into possibility and the life that you feel meant to live and still be grateful for the life that you do currently have? Not like end a marriage or a long-term relationship or like just stop being a parent if you're a parent. Like, how do you do that, right? When everything in your being says, I don't want to live this life. However, I also do enjoy the people I spend my life with. What do you do? That's such a crossroads moment. Um, so a little bit of background for you here. I will say that so many of you listening probably have way more like experience under your belt than I do in terms of years, but I can uniquely speak to this because in my life, I am married. I've got 2 kids. What I was doing and what the future looked like when I got married is not at all what my life looks like right now. So I can very much speak to this idea of like, I created one life and then sort of like, you know, I shocked my husband when a whole other life appeared for us. So, for context, excuse me, for context, I have been married for 11 years right now. I have known my husband for 20 years. We did not date that whole time though, but I've known him for 20 years. So I know him very well. He knows me very well. And we've been married for 11 years. We've got 2 kids. They're 6 and almost 9. And when we got married, a little backstory for you. When we got married, I had finished graduate school. Actually, let's go back even more. When we were dating, I was working for Hershey Chocolate in marketing. And then and my husband was a carpenter making um custom cabinetry, and he's very good at what he does, very good. So he was doing that, and I was deciding to leave my job and go to graduate school. So I did that. Had been in graduate school and was getting my master's in education to be a teacher. So my husband and I are getting married, right? Right before we got married was like 2 months before he got laid off from his job. And then I was definitely not making enough money to support us and was working like a series of jobs. So I was a program director or program director for Girl Scouts for a Girl Scout camp here in Connecticut. I was also tutoring low income in a low income city for kids. I was also working retail. So I was working all these odd jobs. And as a new teacher, you don't make that much money. So not enough money to be paying the bills. My new husband was laid off, right? But when we got married, the idea is that he would work, I would work, I'd be a teacher. We didn't know if we were going to have children or not, but really like very traditional. He would work, I would work. That would be that. So we get married, right? He ended up, um, becoming self-employed and like working on just contract jobs, which was fine. That worked out. Um, and then through a series of events, I ended up working for a small business, still in education though. And then I was laid off when I was 7 months pregnant and ended up being self-employed. So now we're both self-employed. So already not part of the plan, but still very traditional jobs, right? Like I'm still in education. He's doing carpentry and general home remodeling contractor work, very like regular, typical things. Well, so somewhere along the line, and where we get to this point of changing everything without burning everything down, we would have our first child. I would decide that I was going to close my very level education business that actually was uh making more than enough money for us at the time, and I was making more money than my husband and we were very comfortable. I decided that I would rock that boat and leave that behind to open a business teaching things like tarot, astrology, and all kinds of witchy woo goodness on the internet. So, in that same time, I also decided along these years that we were going to homeschool. I decided that too. So, my husband, again, I can speak to this very specifically, and that I lived this life where I thought to myself, everything is fine. Like we have vacations and we have, 2 cars and a house and jobs that people understand and that make sense. And we're like living the American way, right? And then in my heart of hearts, though, I was like, but I am not like thriving. I am not thriving in this situation. There has got to be more. Like there's got to be something else for us, a different way. So, what this episode is about here is really what does this look like to expand into something else while not burning everything down, which I managed to do. It was dicey at some points in time. I'll be really honest. Anybody who's been in our student communities, if you're in our membership or holistic witchery program, you've probably heard me share some of the stories. There were definitely some moments in time where I was like, I don't know what's going on here, but really, it is doable. So I have 3 tips for you today, or three things, and they all start with the letter C, which was sort of coincidence. Also starts with the letter C, and then I realized once I had 2 words with the C, I was like, oh, you got a third one here. So just so you know, the 3 things I think that when you wake up and think, I want to do something entirely different. And yet I don't want to burn everything down. These are the 3 things that I've learned in my 11 years of marriage, which have involved a definite, left turn that was unexpected when we got married. And again, we've known each other 20 years. So my husband was uh, not definitely did not see like some of these things coming, right? Like definitely different than what he knew for me. All right, the first thing I want to bring up is certainty. So when you want to change something drastically in your life that might not make sense to your partner or your kids or whoever it is that you share life with. Obviously, I'm like talking about this through the lens of marriage, but even if you have like adult children or you have a partner or best friends or, like people who love you, who you still might be holding back for fear of what could happen in those relationships, this is still applicable. So the first word is certainty, or certain. How certain are you? Now, here's the thing about this is that you will likely not be certain about the future. You won't be certain about your next step, which will make you hesitate. But you have to be certain that you want something different, that you want something more, whatever that is. And you can be certain that you love your life and want something more. You can be certain of both those things at the same time. But if you are not confident, oh, there's another C. If you're not confident in yourself and certain that you can have something more for yourself, you will falter. You will falter in your delivery. You'll falter in when everybody pushes back on you and doesn't give you like the support you're desiring. You will falter. So the confidence in yourself and being certain that you do desire something more, you don't need to know what that is going to be pretty critical. So many C words, because there will be a point where there are questions raised. And if you aren't certain that you are meant for more, then you might buckle under those questions, right? The second thing is compassion. Having compassion in this time for the other people in your life and for yourself. Because when you decide to take a big left turn in your life and want your whole family or whoever your loved ones are to go on the ride with you, and they're resistant and maybe they argue, maybe they say things they wish they hadn't said or you wish they hadn't said, or things go awry, having compassion for everybody in that moment is going to be also pretty mission critical to, staying the course for yourself and also creating the space for everything to expand and grow in just the way it needs to. So remembering that, you are a person with feelings, they are people with feelings, and that as people with feelings, when things are uncertain, when they're hard, when they're um, unclear about what's going to happen, that begs that leads us to being reactive. So if you know anything about astrology, your moon sign, how you react when you are not feeling supported, that's how you can expect people to act, right? To react. And then you'll react from that place because now you're not feeling supported. So knowing that in advance and feeling compassion towards everybody in this situation, important. So, firstly, we had being certain of yourself that you want something more. You don't have to know what it is, but just like you are grounded in your certainty. The second is compassion for yourself and everybody else, because without that compassion, emotions are just going to like take over and everything might blow up, or you will just back down, right? Or leave people feeling unsupported yourself, which is, while it's no one's job to like make people feel supported, when we're in loving relationships, I think that it is the conscious thing to do to be aware of the energy we're creating and to leave space for people to experience their energy. Now, the third thing is that I have here is compromise. Now, I don't want anybody to compromise on their dreams, anybody ever. That said, when we are in relationships, especially ones that are financially bound, or like if you have children and you are intertwined together in this marriage, in this relationship, compromise is not a bad thing. And that said, I would be ready with compromise in situations on timelines, who will do what first, like what benchmarks need to be set to make this next life and this left turn happen. And I would put boundaries and structure on them. So if the compromise is that you will quit your job and pursue your dreams, and like I did, but the compromise there is that after like a certain period of time, when these benchmarks aren't met, what happens then? Right. Now, I also don't love to think of like plan Bs, because I think that when we have a plan B, that it hangs out in your mind and it can actually lead you to sabotage plan A. So I personally never operate with a plan B ever. 0% of times do I operate with a plan B. Um, I always do know like what is the absolute worst case scenario. And so when I know that, I have more freedom, I think, to lean into my plan A and take action, knowing like what it is that I also don't want to fall into. But I think that when you're compromising, if you like want to quit your job, saying that, okay, well, we need to have 3 months of um 3 months of living expenses in the bank, and then I can quit the job, right? Like looking at it that way. Or saying if you're going to quit your job, this is suddenly come into a quit your job example, but like quitting your job, right? I think that would surprise a lot of people if you just decided, I want to quit my job, pursue like being a life coach or a healer or an energy worker. Like some people might raise their eyes at that. But then saying, okay, I will do this. And it is my commitment to make 5 new contacts and 5 um, points of introduction every single week. And like there you have a benchmark, right? So you're compromising in maybe the timeline or in like how it is that you are still showing up and explaining like what that looks like. Because when there are people that you are intertwined with, it's not as easy as just saying like, oh, I'm just going to do this thing. And that would be completely, I think, unrealistic for so many people to just do that. And that's where the compromise part comes in, is really like, well, what does this look like? How do we make it happen on what timeline that allows it to be more comfortable for everybody involved? So, we're talking about this idea of how do you expand? How do you, if you're a person who wakes up and thinking, this can't be it, right? Like, I love my family. I'm so grateful for what I have. And yet I desire more. I desire something more passionate. I desire a life that feels more fulfilling. How do you do that without burning down all of your bridges and like completely upheaving the life that you have? And sometimes life needs an upheaval. Like maybe that's your case. Maybe it does need an upheaval. And also, if you have people in your life where you're like, okay, I support them, they rely on me. how do I do this thing I desire while still fulfilling that, right? And that's where we come to this being certain in yourself that things are, you can do it. Things are going to change, but you're certain in yourself. Having compassion for all of the emotions that are going to be felt, and then compromising. But that compromise is with benchmarks, with dates, right? So that you're not just like leaving in the dead of night and never coming back. Um, and making it happen for yourself, because you can change everything and not burn everything down. I've done it. I've done it more than once, actually. With the, for me, starting a witch business online in the like metaphysical energy sort of space, tarot, astrology that we're in. Again, from a very steady and prosperous education business that I had created. That was definitely, and also with that, it wasn't just my marriage. Like there were questions from family members, people who were like, but you have a master's degree and you spent all this money on it. And now what are you doing? Folks who, like, I still have family members that literally will not like toot my horn or talk about what I do for work. I am, percentage wise, statistically, in terms of female owned business owners, like we are like we're in like a top percentage of success for female-owned small businesses, and that were self-funded. And I still have family members that will not like shout it from the rooftops. And it's still uncomfortable. Like when people ask my husband, well, what do you do for work? And he's like, oh, well, I used to be a remodeling contractor. And like there's still just some doubts or some like hesitancies. And that's where the compassion on my end comes in, right? Because I have to realize that it's not my job to dim my light. So I'm going to shine it bright. And I have compassion for everybody else who has like uh, felt, felt something from the decisions that I made to take my life on a complete left turn. But it is doable. And I think that looking back, certainty in myself was important, confidence and certainty in myself, because if other people aren't going to hold it, well, firstly, you don't want other people to hold it for you, but you got to be able to hold it for yourself. Compassion for all the feelings people are going to have. Imagine somebody just pulling the rug out from underneath you, how you would feel. So compassion, and then that compromise, but with benchmarks. Because if you compromise and just say, okay, well, I'll do it in like 3 years when everybody's ready. No, that's not the kind of compromise we're talking about. We're talking about like, you're going to do it right now. But like, what is the thing that needs to happen? Is it that you save the money first? If maybe, so I'm using like a job as an example, but maybe you want to change like your whole lifestyle, or maybe you want to move and go live in Italy or something, right? Like, what are the things that have to happen for that to occur? Um, and what's the timeline look like? And that's the compromise part, not, oh, we'll do it one day when. No, no, no. We're going to create it now. That's what's going to happen right now. Uh, all right. So there you go. My anniversary is this week. And it really got me thinking about my husband and I and our 11 years of marriage, and how it has definitely not been the easiest thing. I would say probably for both of us, it's been one of the harder things that we've done in life. And we're both very like, strong-willed. Um, if you have any strong-willed children, that's basically how our marriage is. We're both very strong-willed. But I know firsthand that you can completely like sideswipe someone with something they never saw coming and not burn everything down. And I see so many people who hold themselves back because they feel like they should be living up to this expectation, or they can't let people down, or like, oh my God, my partner would never. I hear it mostly with husbands, I will be honest. Um, so I mostly hear it in in heterosexual marriages is where I'm hearing this most often. But that like a husband would never in a million years could I tell them that I want to learn tarot and astrology and like be a tarot reader and not do this thing, or learn astrology and not do this thing. Like that's normally where I hear it. So I'm here to tell you that you can do these things and live to tell the tale. Through your relationship can live to tell the tale. So there's some tips for you. Certainty, compassion, compromise are my 3 C's of this episode. All right, y'all. If you've got the itch though to learn more about any of this, always let us know. We've got all kinds of programs. We'll give you the details about all of them. Make sure you grab your free copy of our Stay Magic digital magazine. The summer 2023 issue is out right now, so you can grab that. And we are always here to help place you in the right thing for you at the right time if you do have something you want to learn about. And explore into, we got the tools to help you do it. But until next time, I hope that you have an enchanted rest of your day ahead. If you liked this episode of the Expedition to Soul podcast, please rate, review, subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, it will really help us spread everyday magic, intention, and intuition to the masses and helps us so much as a small business. Be sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. There are new episodes every Tuesday and astro forecasts for the week ahead every Friday. If there's any topics you'd want to hear, anything you want us to dive deeper into, shoot us an email at magic@thesistersenchanted.com. And as always, thank you so much for listening and being part of the community here at the Sisters Enchanted. And we'll see you in the next episode.